Hello and welcome to the Fe+male Tech Heroes Conference 2024. Woo! Good to see you all here in the conference center at High Tech Campus Eindhoven, where it once started. My name is Hilde de Vocht, and next to me is Ingeloe Stol, and we are the founders of Fe+male Tech Heroes. And together with our crew, who's, I think, still outside, we are your hosts for this afternoon.
And this is a very special year for us, since it's our 5th anniversary. So we celebrate that. Yeah. So what started as a platform for women in tech has evolved into a mission to amplify the call for gender equality and diversity in the tech industry. And now our platform consists of 4,000 ambassadors of all genders, all with the same goal: more diversity and more inclusion in this tech industry. And that makes us proud. Right, Hilde?
Yeah, really proud. Our community grows, and new ideas and new insights from our members and our partners make our network stronger every day. And talking about partners, let's have a look at the screen, because we have already 21 partners, companies who support us on our diversity and inclusion mission. Give them, please, a big applause. We started this partner initiative almost 1 year ago, and now we have great corporates committed to our network like ASML and Philips. We have a lot of startups and scale-ups supporting us. Smart Photonics, in cooling, very nice. And we also have partners like Fontis and the Technical University of Eindhoven. So we really like the mix. And if you also want to become a partner, there is room for more.
Definitely, yeah. So the theme of this year's conference is From Femtech Lows to Glows, where innovation meets empowerment. Do you know the saying, you've come a long way? Well, women in tech have come a long way, and there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, at this year's conference, we bring together the lows and the glows. We embrace the difficulties, struggles, hurdles, or uncertainties you may sometimes face, but we also celebrate the achievements so far, the beautiful people here in the room, what we are and who we are. And the team is also connected to the 25th anniversary of the High Tech Campus, because we have another celebration this year. And the theme of the celebration of the High Tech Campus is Rewind and Fast Forward. So it's looking at the past, but also fast forward to the future, because there's still a lot to do.
So every year we try something new as Fe+male Tech Heroes, whether it's an award show like last year or an event especially for male allies. So this year we were thinking, what shall we do with the conference? And we thought, we could go on safari, right? Are you excited for the safari? Yeah? Okay, good. Hilde.
Hopefully the weather is too.
Yeah, I hope so too.
And supports us on this safari. Yeah, but we decided not to sit in a room whole day, but also go out. So we will visit some nice places, innovation hubs on campus, like the AI Innovation Center, Startup Hub, High Tech Excel. We have the Workplace Vitality Hub, the Whole Center, and 5G Hub Eindhoven.
Yeah, so you can choose one of these 5 locations. If you haven't done so, you can do that in the foyer with one of our colleagues. But before we go on safari, we have 2 amazing items on the agenda. We will start with 3 amazing keynote speakers. Then we have a break. Let's just call it a pee break. And then we go to our 6 career workshops, which you can also choose here in the foyer. The full program you can find at the back also of your badge, so if you turn it around.
Yeah, and after the career workshops, it's important that you quickly get your coat, because then we go on a safari. There's also a photographer and a camera man inside. If you don't want to be on a photo or on a video, please let us know. But now, about these 3 amazing keynotes. Ingeloe, can you tell us more?
Definitely. For example, we have Joyce de Ruiter, who inspires about agility and resilience in times of change. And her keynote, Leading in Change, will be about how change can be the catalyst for and also breeding ground for future opportunities and success.
Yeah, and also on stage will be the winner of the Female Tech Hero Award of last year, Christine Brown. She's Senior Director, Development and Engineering at ASML and will take us into the world of storytelling. She hopes to encourage you in your own career adventures by sharing hers.
And we will start with the keynote, Be the First. A story about transformative power of being first, whether it's in science and technology to politics and activism. She is the Executive Vice President and Chief Technology Innovation and Portfolio Officer at Capgemini. Give her a very round, warm of applause, Cara Antoine.
Thank you so much. I want you to be the first. If you can imagine that as a young girl, I got inspired by reading the stories and the accomplishments of great pioneers. Think about Grace Hopper, Amelia Earhart, and Jane Goodall. I really believed I would fly a plane one day. Well, as I was coming here today on the train, I was also thinking about a couple of women who came before us, who are in the training business. If we think about Cara Harrison, she was the first British woman who was a train operator in the late 1980s. She faced a lot of discrimination as a footstepper. And it was a really tough business, still to be in. But if you can imagine that with digitization today, now, out of the 400 jobs in the East that are on a list that say women can't do these jobs, there are only 399 yet to go, because through digitization, women can be train operators. It's no longer turning the heavy cranks and using the footstep in order to operate that train. But Karen was already breaking barriers when she stepped into the industry in the 1980s. I'm also grateful for another woman. Her name is Mary Anderson. Anyone heard of her? Well, Mary came a little bit before the times, in the 1800s, also in the UK, in fact. And she was observing something happening in the city streets around her, where trolley drivers, in the middle of a snowstorm, needed to stop the trolley every few meters to climb out the window and use their hand to clean the window. What do you think she invented? The inventor of the windshield wiper. It's because of stories like this, about incredible achievements like this, of women who came before us, that we are where we are today. And I was really excited to hear that we're here because we're standing on the shoulders of those who came before. But you know, we had to start somewhere. And probably Hypatia was one of those first women in mathematics. And she was an incredible pioneer in her days, in the years of 400 AD. But she became known for developing hyperboles and what it looked like in the mathematics space to philosophically educate other people about what the power of math would be. And she was also a pioneer for other women. where most other philosophers were teaching classes only of men, she was looking for the women in the communities and saying, I want you to be educated in math too. But there was another woman who maybe even preceded her, and her name was Pandysonian. But there was some issue about who this individual was, and it wasn't until the 1800s that translators were looking at the Greek translation into Latin to understand truly what this individual's achievements were. Well, they had studied the cube root and was able to identify and explain where the cube root came from for the first time. But the challenge was, it was inconceivable that that was from a woman. And so everyone thought this was a man. And in fact, all of the history documented the fact that she was a man. There was also an issue in the fact that the main rival of the same types of discovery was a man, and he didn't want anyone else to stand in his way. Well, it wasn't until over 100 years later, into the 1900s, that we realized that Pandysonian was in fact a woman. Unfortunately, there are no real images of her for us to document, but her story now survives. Of course, here's a beloved face. I'm sure many of you know Ada Lovelace. Anyone heard of her before? I can imagine that every woman in tech here in the room has heard of Ada Lovelace. Well, she was the first to recognize that through the machine, we could do more application than what was pure calculation. She is really known for creating some of the first computer programs. In fact, in her notes, when we decipher those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, note G, talked about the first computer program. It was fantastic to see the achievements that she brought to life. But it wasn't until the late 1980s that she was given recognition for these accomplishments. And in fact, another 30 years later, in 2009, that she was actually given her own day, Ada Lovelace Day. It's a day I enjoy celebrating every year. Well, when we talk about recognition, there's also another wonderful example through Marie Curie. In the sciences, Marie is still today the only individual, male or female, to have won 2 Nobel Prizes, both in chemistry and in physics. And what I think is so incredible about the opportunity to glow, like the theme of the conference today, is that a lot of her research was specializing in radioactivity. But what she was able to do was bridge this gap from a theory around radioactivity to actually making applicable solutions in developing the technology that created the mobile X-ray machine. She was able to save hundreds, if not thousands, of lives on the battlefield during the wartime because of these mobile X-ray units and applying her skills in radioactivity. In fact, for those scientists in the room today, there's even an atomic molecule named after her, the curium, number 96 on the charts. Well, I'm sharing these stories with you because it's so important to pass along generationally the achievements of others, to inspire each other, to understand what others have needed to do to pave the way for all of us to get to do what we are able to do today. And while I wasn't necessarily working in radioactivity, I was active with a radio. And this was probably, for me, the kickstart to my career in tech. You see, when I was 14, my brother and I were playing a game of toss. That was his idea. I was holding on to my beloved radio, and he wanted it because it was the first battery-operated radio that we had in the neighborhood. I'm dating myself a little bit here, I realize. However, I adored that radio because in addition to being a woman in science and tech, I'm also a musician, a jazz musician. And I loved listening to that radio. Well, that made my brother really jealous, and he would rather play a game of toss with me. So we went running around the house, and of course, the story goes, it didn't go so well for that radio. It went crashing to the ground on a missed pass. We're still debating how that really happened. But we went through a phase of analysis paralysis. My brother on one side saying, uh-oh, I'm in trouble again. And me on the other side saying, wow, look at all the wires that were inside. I'm so fascinated. I want to learn everything I can about what it meant to put that radio together. And so, at the age of 14, I signed up for EE, electrical engineering. And I was the first girl in that class. And lucky for me, I had a teacher who believed in every student in that class, including me. And he said the 4 most empowering words to me: I believe in you. And I'm pretty sure if he hadn't have said those 4 words to me at that time, I wouldn't be here today talking with you and getting to do the things that I most love doing today in the field of technology, in engineering, and in science. If you can picture 40 plus years after that incident, I'm now also the first female Chief Technology and Innovation Officer at Capgemini. I have 31 other male colleagues in a similar role around the company. But I'm here because of my ambition and my own achievements, but also because I had a boss who believed in wanting to do things differently. He wanted to pave a way where putting a woman into a role of leadership would help us as a company and as an industry and in society to open doors for more women. Because he knows through the power of network, through the power of influence, through the power of role modelship and leadership, that women have the ability to open that door, put their foot in it, and wait until more women come through with them, and to invite them at the table with them. And that's so important to all of our advocates in the room. In fact, a new twist on the language is I'm not talking about allyship anymore. I'm talking about our advocates. I want the people who will take action, who will help to open that door, who will create those new opportunities. It's more than just supporting an idea. It's taking action, it's advocating and making things happen. And that is the power of being the first, of having that opportunity to pave the way and open new doors, and to invite others to the table with us. Well, there are a number of incredible stories, and I'd love to share a few more of those with you. If we think about Dr. Hayat Sindi, she's the first biotechnologist in Saudi Arabia who discovered point-to-service care medical solutions. And she's really broken some barriers in terms of what it means to have a woman in the medical field, and in doing things that are changing the lives of patients across the Middle East. How many of you have heard of Rosalind Franklin? Great to see so many hands going up. She discovered the double helix. And it's incredible that she's gone to the source of our DNA. And if I fast forward the clock, in fact, just last week, Google announced a new AI model that helps us to really understand and predict the biological molecular level structures. And so if we link the work that Rosalind did so many years ago to even just last week in the announcements of what we can do in the achievements of AI, it wouldn't have been possible if it weren't for the initial discoveries of people like Rosalind. And I can tell you, she did win a Nobel Prize, but initially, her 2 male lab mates won the prize first. It wasn't until 40 years after she died that she was posthumously given the Nobel Prize in Science. And there's another incredible woman, Tu Youyou. Has anyone heard of Tu? Has anyone traveled to the East, or been bitten by a mosquito, or suffered from malaria? Well, it may be thanks to Tu Youyou that you're with us today, because she created the solution for solving the issues of malaria. When scientists were looking at hundreds of thousands of compounds, Tu Youyou went into her back garden, where her parents had been practicing Chinese herbal medicine, and she extracted 2 herbs from the ground and put those together to find a cure for malaria, saving hundreds of millions of lives. She is the first and only female from China who has ever been awarded the Nobel Prize. Well, I may not have saved millions of lives in my career, but maybe hundreds. You see, when I was with Royal Shell, we had a goal, which was called Goal Zero. And I was on a mission to change, improve, and save people's lives and the planet. But there was something also going on in the environment that was a bit prohibitive in the work that I did. So let me ask you, does one size really fit all? Well, in my experience, it didn't, because we were given personal protection equipment, PPE gear, that was made for men. So I donned up in my PPE gear every day as we were doing our work, but as you can see even in the middle picture, the gloves were practically falling off of my fingers. The middle zip had no function for me, and frankly, I really didn't enjoy putting my feet in someone else's sweaty boots. So when I was on a site where there were more than 400 men and 2 other women, I said to the ladies, I'm going to stitch up my own gear. And so I literally took out a sewing needle, and I started to shape the new PPE that felt better on my body, that fit me. And in doing so, we started to create more PPE gear, and we started to industrialize this. We brought our ideas forward, and we started to create suits that were made by women for women across our company. And this became even viral from there. The most exciting thing was seeing the fact that when women could show up to work every day wearing clothes made for them, they really felt like they belonged for the first time at our company. And that excited us so much, because you can be a catalyst for change when you find something where there's a problem, where there's an issue that you're facing. Like, think about the story of Mary Anderson, who saw the problem that trolley driver was facing. When you look around you and you see something happening that no one else has figured out a way to solve for, you can be the first to make a difference for hundreds, for millions of people. And I think at the end of the day, the most empowering thing and the strongest signal that we can bring is when women start to literally stand in the shoes of what were traditionally made for men. The types of jobs that they would do, the clothing they would wear. When women can step into those shoes, we send a signal that we're diversifying the industry, that it's possible for women to be those train operators, to be those shell operators, to be able to do whatever it is that they put their mind to doing. And it's so important to create those opportunities and break through those barriers that we perceive that tell us what we think we can do. What are the stories that you tell yourself about what's possible and what is not? From the age of 4, we are imprinted, we're already being stereotyped in the belief of what we think we can do, putting little boys into pajamas with rocket ships where they can dream every night they can go to space. And little girls, kittens and ice cream cones and fluffy pink things. We can wear pink. We imagine when we put our little girls at the age of 4 into space shuttle pajamas, that they can go to sleep every night dreaming of going to space. Well, other women have had dreams too. And if we think about these incredible women, Juliana Rotich, she saw a problem in Kenya, where in a low infrastructure environment, she created telecommunication systems because she wanted her villages to communicate with each other. And what about Maria de Peña? Anyone heard of a law that was named after her? Someone has. Do you know why? Let me help. So Maria was not only a biopharmacist, but she also became a human rights defender. Why? She had a husband who tried to kill her. Not once, but twice. And she was in the court system for more than 20 years in Brazil. And the human rights defenders said, this is ridiculous. How does it take so long? For someone who's trying to defend their own life, we need to support her. And they ended up naming a law after her, the Fe+male law, which stands for human rights. I would say, when you have passion for something, you must pioneer the representation of that. Sometimes it comes into your life, this passion, by chance. Sometimes it's something that's grown with you as you've matured. I experienced something in my life now 12 years ago, in that I lost my left eye while I was working at Royal Shell. I was in the East, I got very sick, and through a matter of circumstances ended up losing my eye. I have a beautifully medically transplanted eye today. I'm blind in this eye. And I have a fantastic female surgeon, no surprise there, who has been treating me for the last 12 years. It took me about 2 years to get back on my own feet. I lost all my confidence. I didn't think I'd ever drive a car again or use my computer. But once I got out of the valley of pity, I started to realize that as a woman in tech, there was an awful lot I could do to get back on my own feet. And so I started applying tools to myself and leveraging all the things that I always enjoyed and telling others about were possible, to test the limits and to ensure that I could get back on my own feet and to augment my own capabilities so I could be successful again. But this carried on in other forums, and in one such space at Microsoft, I started to lead groups on what was called Blind for a Day. And one of those such experiences was going to the Rijksmuseum. And at the Rijks, for any of you who have been there in Amsterdam, you know there are many steps. It's a very difficult museum to navigate. And while I was navigating, I was looking also at some of these beautiful paintings, Rembrandt's Night Watch, and realizing that if you had a visual impairment, you're going to have a pretty tough time engaging with that painting when you go up to the little sign and try to read that says, painted by Rembrandt in blah, 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 and it's a picture that looks like this. No clue still what this would look like. And so, through the power of storytelling, I teamed up with the people at the Rijksmuseum to rewrite the story about the Night Watch. So if you can imagine with me and close your eyes just for a moment, that you're told a story about approaching a fence where you need to lift your leg and step over that fence into an area which starts to feel very chilly and tense because there are soldiers in this scene, and I can hear a dog barking, and I can hear a little girl whimpering in the background. And it feels like this anger and tension in the air as soldiers are preparing to go off to battle. Do you maybe now have a small idea of what the Night Watch is all about? Well, I'm very proud to be able to be a part of being a first to see that there's a capability in us that can change other people's lives. And to be able to write the script, to rewrite the script at the Rijksmuseum, to help others navigate the collections in this way. And that's the power of pioneering our representation. Other incredible women here on Earth, Mae Jemison, who was a part of the space shuttle that went to the moon on Space Shuttle Endeavour. And I like to say that she went to the moon to discover the Earth, because she started to photograph every step of her journey and helped to make it possible for us to understand the changes in the geology, the changes in the landscape, and what was happening. And she was credited for this incredible work that helped us understand better our planet by flying off to the moon. Well, back here on Earth, maybe it's a trick question, but anyone here have a cell phone? You can thank Gladys West, because she was on Earth as a mathematician, studying the shape of the Earth and developing a mathematical formula that helped to develop the first GPS satellite systems. And thanks to her, we're all connected on our mobile technology today. And there's another incredible woman in tech, Cynthia Breisau from Brazil. And she's developed the first social robots and helping us to interact which today you could even say has evolved to becoming the human avatar, and is an incredible woman that we stand on the shoulders, because today, less than 5% of surgeries are actually being conducted by robotics. And so we have a long way to go, but we have come a long way. I've shared with you a little bit about what happened to my eye, and one of the other things that I wanted to activate was helping other persons with visual impairments to feel as empowered as I felt, to be able to achieve all that they wanted in work and life. And so while I was at Microsoft, I developed an app with a team called Seeing AI. You can download that on any app store today. And we wanted to ensure that through the lens of your camera, that a person with a visual impairment could scan a barcode, could look at someone's face, could see the currency in their hand, and be able to understand for themselves and become more independent through what the camera was telling them it could see. The fascinating thing about this app, in fact, is that it's now transversed over to the tourism industry. And earlier this week, I was in Denmark speaking to a room of individuals in the life sciences industry about generative AI. And while I was in the restaurant, I used Seeing AI, and it was able to select for me all the vegetarian items on the menu in Danish without having to read through the entire menu and translate that for me. It has incredible capabilities, and I fundamentally believe in empowering people through technology, but also educating people. As the chairperson for digital literacy at the G100, I'm on a mission to train and teach over 100 women every year in digital skills. I think I've far exceeded that if I just consider today's participation. And I also have thought about what's happening beyond my borders. So if I look to Afghanistan, I've been partnering with a company called Learn AFG, which is in a secret society training women to learn about technology, coding their own websites so that they can be independent and are able to put food on their table through the income that they can create by working online. It is so important for us to leverage these capabilities and be role models, to mentor other people, and to help each other along on this journey. Take someone's hand, show them the way, and give them a little nudge when they're not so sure that they're going to get there on their own. So, what can we do when we think about the opportunities ahead to really consider how you break barriers, how you champion diversity, how you're the one that wants to change the way that the world is today to get the future that you want? This is an invitation and a call to action for each of you. As Viola Davis once put it, to achieve anything in life, you have to be a bit of a hero. You have to find your wings, ensure that you are enabling others to achieve all that they want in life. And I'll end on a beautiful quote from Mary Daly, who was a chief scientist, who once said something about courage, and that when you learn to courage, you do that by couraging. Because I fundamentally believe that the stories that we can share with each other, that we can pass along from generation to generation, will surely inspire those still to come. And so I invite you to share your stories with each other over the coffee throughout the safari today. Connect with each other and share your accomplishments. Make them known. Please make them visible and make them loud. We want to hear you because this is what will inspire us, all of us. And remember, I believe in you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cara. We also believe in you.
Thank you.
What a wonderful talk. Thanks a lot. You wrote a beautiful book.
I did.
Right?
I did.
Make it personal.
Yes.
And if you are still there during the drinks, you can win one of her books. So
thank you.
Good reason, had to be there.
Thank you.
Till the end.
I'm so proud it's also become a #1 bestseller on Amazon, and it's on Ingram Micro, over 40,000 outlets, the #1 distributed book. So it's an incredible accomplishment.
before we go to the next speaker, we have room for one question. Be the first.
Yes. So, better than the radio catch.
Thanks for the inspiring story. I have a question. So there was a few persons in your life that helped you and told that they believe in you. Of course, you yourself as a personality has a say in that. What kind of advice do you have for the ladies here to engage with a sponsor and find a sponsor? I think because this is something that at least I'm struggling with. Yeah, that's the question.
That's a fantastic question. So the question is about sponsorship. And, there are going to be many engagements that we want to have throughout our career and throughout our life, whether it's through coaching or through mentoring or looking to role models or indeed to sponsorship. And I think you need to figure out in the situation you're in what's the right relationship you want to have. But each of those are important, all at different times and sometimes at the same time. The sponsorship is vital for us in organizations because this is really about someone else who appreciates and understands your talent and your capabilities, that they can speak on your behalf when you're not in the room. And that's the magic of that sponsorship. And that takes a lot of effort, sometimes through teaming up with someone who does coach you, who is your mentor, who was your role model for a long time. And it takes courage to ask an individual if they will be your sponsor. I'm very selective in that because I really want to ensure that I'm standing behind the achievements of that individual and that I can really, in a room, even despite challenge or discrimination or anything else happening, that I can really stand with confidence and say, I believe in this person. I've just participated yesterday, in fact, in we go through on an annual basis, we go through VP and EVP panels, and we came up on a discussion yesterday, and it happened to be about a female candidate who was in line for becoming a vice president in our company. And in the panel, just to set the scene, there were 4 women and 3 men. And 50% of the group, including some of the women, were not in support. And I was very much in support of this individual. And I talked about the fact that sometimes we need to take a leap of faith. Sometimes we simply need to get behind and give that person the chance. And when you can find, and I'm not necessarily this person's sponsor, to be honest, but when you can find someone that will advocate, again, there's that word advocate, not just allyship, but advocate for you, then that's the special combination you want to find. You do that through authenticity, and by showing really who you truly are. But it's a very special combination to have a sponsor, and you may not ever even know about those conversations taking place about you. It takes a lot of effort to build that relationship, but where you have the opportunity to find a sponsor, go for it. Yeah.
Thank you. Useful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One more big applause. Cara, Antoine, thank you very much. And now prepare for the second keynote. Christine Brown, our female tech hero of the year.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. With her talk on Untitled stories.
Yes. Let me start. Oop, it went too fast. Oh. Thank you. I'm not sure if the clicker is working, but let me actually start with a quote from Harry Truman. He says, "There's nothing new in this world except for the history you don't know." Now, in my time with you, I'm not going to wow you with any groundbreaking technical discoveries. Instead, I thought I would share my own journey, my stories, and some of the anecdotes and quotes that have actually helped me throughout my own career and my own leadership journey. Some of these quotes or anecdotes may not be new to you, actually. You probably have heard them before. But even then, I do hope that you are able to take something out of it, that there's a nugget that you can put in your pocket as you traverse your own journeys and lives in the future. And if not, I do promise that at the end of this presentation, I will have hopefully one or two things that you probably didn't know at the beginning of this presentation. So bear with me. Let me start with my origin story. The clicker really doesn't work. Oh, there it is. Maybe just the delay. Origin story. I was born in the Philippines to a family of 10 children. I have 7 sisters, 2 brothers. A lot of advantages being from a big family. The first thing is that you learn what it really means to live with others. You learn to get along, right? You also get very early on the sense of community. You learn the value of giving and sharing, including being in the receiving end of a closet full of hand-me-down clothes. There may be people who are observant in the audience who already counted that there are only 8 children in this picture. My younger brother says he was just a twinkle in my mother's eyes, and my youngest sister, a twinkle in my father's. But rest assured, there were 10 of us. And as they say, the more that is given, the more that is expected. And there was definitely a lot expected, even from a young age. In a young age, we learn responsibility. This is our weekly chore chart, including what you can see here, the second to the last one, called Joseph and Celine. This chore was taking care of my youngest brother and my youngest sister. So we tell them now that my youngest siblings, they were definitely and literally a chore. But there is a downside of being in a big family, because it's very difficult to escape the constant comparisons that are made by family, by friends, relatives, classmates, you name it. There's always a sister who was prettier, always a sister who was more creative, who could cook better, who could bake better. And it's acknowledged that my older brother is the funniest in the family. So, one inevitable comparison always being made, who is smarter? Well, in that department, I had 2 elder sisters who actually qualified in a very competitive national exam to enroll for high school in a school called Philippine Science High School. Philippine Science High School is a specialized high school for math and science. They took, at that time, only 240 students per year nationwide. I really wanted to get into that school. And in the first year that I applied, I didn't get it. I didn't get in. Well, that really told me where I stood in the smart department. But I didn't give up. In my second year, I tried again. And in the second year, the slots, I'm sorry, in that second year, the number of slots depended on the number of freshmen who didn't make it. So that second time, there were 2 slots. I found out about what happened in the qualifying exams when I saw my sister in the front door waiting for me with a paper bag. She handed me that paper bag, and in that paper bag was the school uniform for the high school. I knew I got in. And I'm very, very grateful, because in school, in high school, I found my lifelong friends. And I really found my love for the sciences. But in that high school, they had a practice. Every quarter, after the exam period, you were ranked as a class from the top of the student body in your class to the lowest. Number 1 to number 240. Every quarter, at the registrar's office, open to the whole student body, you knew exactly where you stood. And of course, it was hard to escape that anxiety of failing. Was I ever going to be good enough? I got my big break, actually, when I was able to get in to a college in the United States. I went to an all-women's college in the East Coast called Mount Holyoke College. Now, in college, I was able to reframe. Why? Because no one came up to me and said, "Are you so-and-so's daughter? Are you so-and-so's sister?" Right? No one knew my family. I suddenly had no standard of measure. And so in college, I could define myself. It reminds me of a quote from a Stoic philosopher from the middle of the 1st century, Seneca. He said, "If you want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person." And during college, I was able to reframe my own thinking. I look back at those years and I find I actually opened doors. Because after I left for the United States, my parents and my siblings found out that this was a possible path. Actually, two of my next two sisters joined me in the United States and also applied to all women's colleges. Not surprising, they didn't want to go to where I went. But during those years, I really was able to define who I was at that time. And of course, you know that who you are at any time can change. But I learned what I really valued. I valued my family, I valued my friends, I valued my faith, and I valued learning. And I'm sorry that And what I realized is that I blazed a trail for my sisters to also have the opportunity to discover themselves in a new country. And despite the fact that I left my country of origin, I found that my family is actually the foundation of my sense of belonging. My family grounds me wherever I choose to live. And so what I want the first lesson I'd like to share with you is reframe. Reframe towards possibilities, not confined by someone else's standard of measure. Define for yourself who you really want to be. After I got my PhD in chemistry from Cornell University, I moved to California and started in the semiconductor industry. After being in a technical role, I wanted to switch into marketing. So I ended up in a company called KLA-Tencor. They are a capital equipment company for the semiconductor focused on process control. The semiconductor industry is a cyclical business. It can be very brutal, especially in the United States. I've gone through and lived through several rounds of layoff. Early in my tenure in KLA, the manager who hired me, the product marketing manager, got laid off. And we were at the point at the product life cycle of the product line that I was the only marketeer for, where we needed to actually go through the milestone of creating the master plan. Now, master plans, as some of you probably know, are made by the program development manager. Note development. I was a marketeer. But because of the layoffs, I was it. I really doubted that I could do this. And my doubts were compounded when I had my first meeting with the engineering team. Imagine this, a room full of men looking at me. I really thought, I could see in their eyes, they didn't trust me. I didn't have the credibility. I didn't know how I was going to do this. However, my sense of responsibility came back up, and I said, I had to do something to be able to move forward. I had to authorize myself. So I realized at that point in time that sometimes we suffer more in our imagination than in reality. Another quote from Seneca. So I had to get back up. Coming from a big family, it sort of helped. Why? Because I did just what was natural for me, which was I started to engage all the engineering people one by one, got to know them, collaboratively consulted with them, invited them to share their expertise, and I really put my learning hat on, right? I asked them a lot of questions, and I honored their competence. And with those efforts, I was able to create a plan. We created a master plan. I presented to senior management. We got through the milestone and proceeded with product development. And then I went back to my product marketing job. But I learned a very important lesson. It was probably one of my early lessons in leadership. I realized that in that experience, I built a team. I was able to bring people together, stimulate ideas, solve complex problems, even if I didn't have the title, nor the authority. And so, lesson number 2, lead from any chair, even without the title. All right. A few years after, I did get the people manager hat, so I got the title at KLA, and that's where ASML found me. So 10 years ago, ASML headhunted me out of the US and brought me to the Netherlands. I moved to the Netherlands 10 years ago to be head of the customer support applications team here in Veldhoven. And I think I quickly adapted to sort of the Dutch culture of directness, you know. And I thrived in my role, or so I thought. Early in my tenure in ASML, I actually sought out a senior leader to try to get pointers. And boy, did I really get feedback. In that meeting, I was told, you were weak. I have to say, and I can't deny, that that comment didn't affect me. I was really jarred by that feedback. I ruminated on the comment and really spiraled down. I had wished, actually, that I have heard of this comment, another Stoic philosopher called Marcus Aurelius, and he says, when jarred unavoidably by circumstance, revert at once to yourself and don't lose the rhythm more than you can help. I learned 2 lessons from that incident. The first lesson I learned was keep the feedback at arm's length. It will avoid internalizing that feedback right away. Keeping that feedback at arm's length gives you time. It creates the mind space to process that feedback. Is that feedback something you recognize? Is this feedback about skill, about competence, about character? In any of those cases, you can always apply kind curiosity. You can ask yourself, is this feedback something you want to change? Is this feedback something that you want to define you? The feedback was on my character. I was perceived as weak. Well, what better to counter that than to get up again and fight another day? Because I didn't want to be weak. I didn't believe I was weak. I wanted to thrive. And that's how I reverted back to myself and got through that episode. The other lesson I learned, the second lesson I learned, is that I realize now that I'm in the position where the tables can be turned. And so this is a quote that I love from an American writer and poet, Maya Angelou. Many of you probably know it. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I never forgot how that senior leader made me feel. So I'm very cognizant, actually, about how I give feedback. I try to be constructive. I try to actually approach the person and think to myself, does this person want to be helped? Oh, we love that. We're always solving problems. Does this person want to be heard? Or does this person want to be hugged? And that can happen in the span of one conversation. However, despite all that, what I know, what I've learned, I still make mistakes. I still actually don't do it right all the time. How do I know? Because my direct reports tell me so. And I'm very grateful, because if no one speaks up about my behavior, then I can't learn. The feedback that I receive, I'm able to actually feed forward towards possibilities of who I might want to be. I'm going to switch a little bit and tell a story. Some people might know the story. This is called the starfish story. It says, just imagine, strolling along the edge of the sea, a man catches sight of a young woman who stoops down and then straightens to her full length and casts her arms in an arc. Drawing closer, he sees that the beach around her is littered with starfish. She's throwing them one by one into the sea. He lightly mocks her. There are stranded starfish as far as the eye can see, for miles up the beach. What difference can saving a few possibly make? Smiling, she bends down and once more tosses a starfish over the water, saying serenely, "It certainly made a difference to this one." Now, last year, I was very honored to receive the Female Tech Hero Award. And in my reflection, I'm really glad that I didn't try to vie for this award, right? I didn't try to be perfect and practice to perform for one night. Actually, I could do the same things and be the same person before and after the award. I could just be me. Because I think I won the award because people recognized that I try every day to put my full self at the table. And I can tell you, it's not an easy thing to do. I mentor and coach both men and women. And they come to me and they ask me, how do I make impact? How do I make a difference? And I can understand that feeling, because in a growing company of 40,000 people, you might feel like you're just a jelly in the tank. I don't have the silver bullet. I don't know the answer. However, I can share that there are many times in my life and there are many circumstances where I want to be in control. I want to be in control of the topic, the plan, the people, the result. But actually making a difference sometimes means letting go of the outcome. And I'm not saying let go of all the business KPIs that you have, no. What I'm saying is you also always have to assess the situation, because sometimes you can actually be the problem. Every day I still ask myself, do I make impact? Do I make a difference? Well, last January, I got an email from someone who was in my reporting line when I was in customer support. He was celebrating a work anniversary, his 25th anniversary at ASML, and this is actually the email I received. He said, "At some moments in my journey, you left an indelible mark for me." Wow, got curious about that comment. So I joined the celebration, and I spoke with him and asked him directly, "What made you make that comment?" And he said, there was a point in time that he had a new idea for a new service business offering. He remembers me spending the time with him. He remembers me really strategizing about how he might make it work through the organization. And he remembers me being genuinely interested. So, since I left customer support for D&E, for development and engineering, I asked him, what was the result? And he said, no, nothing came out of it. But it didn't matter, because my belief in him allowed him to carry on. So although unconsciously I had let go of the results, I was just being present in my moments with him, focusing on working through and being the sounding board for him, for his ideas, and believing in him. And that actually made the difference. The last quote I'm going to share is this quote from one of my favorite authors, Brené Brown. You probably have guessed. And it says, just because we didn't measure up to some standard of achievement doesn't mean we don't possess the gifts or talents that only we can bring to the world. And just because someone fails to see the value of what we can create or achieve doesn't change its worth or ours. So the third lesson I'd hope to leave with you today is be authentically you. Bring your full self to the table, because you never know when, as you toss that starfish, you may make a difference to this one. Before I end, I promise that I will share with you one or two things that you probably didn't know at the beginning of this presentation. But before that, let me summarize. If there are three things I hope that you remember: reframe towards possibilities. Don't be confined by the world's standards of measure, confined by the yardstick that other people have. Lead from any chair, even if you don't have the title. And be authentically you, because you possess the gifts and talents that only you can uniquely bring to the world. Now, as I said, two or three things, epilogue, that I want to share that you may not know about at the beginning. The first, this wasn't a technical presentation, but I couldn't help it. The geek that I am. Ta-da! This is the next generation product of ASML that we've released to the customer. It's the next generation lithography product. And what I wanted, hardware is amazing, isn't it? But that's not what I wanted to share with you. What I wanted to share with you, the magic, is actually in that little picture of boring lines and spaces that this machine had printed. And it is about the diameter, the dimension line in the legend. 10 nanometers. Marble. A diameter of the marble, assuming, is 1 nanometer. Then that would mean the diameter of the Earth is 1 meter. What you're seeing here is 10 marbles compared to the diameter of the Earth. That's the magic. Now, I show this because I'm intimately involved in my role now with the teams that are integrating, industrializing, verifying the performance of this platform, and supporting our customers at the customer site. I'm very, very proud of them. And actually, I'm very, very excited because it feels like we are part of making history. The second thing I wanted to share is all the pictures in this presentation, aside from the one from ASML, of course, was from my personal album. Why? Why would I do that, considering there are many stock photos on the network, on the internet, on the web? I did it because, although I didn't want to actually, I was reluctant to speak today. When I committed to it, I wanted to make it fun for me. And so I looked through my own archives to look for pictures, relive some good memories that I've had over my life, including the picture of the ultrasound of my son. Now, it reminded me that it's a privilege to be a woman. And it reminded me of the feeling of actually really recognizing that I had another human being inside me. So talk about the world of possibilities. Last thing, in your program, this talk is titled Untitled Stories. I want to present the real title of this presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I present The Wonder of You.
Christine Brown, everyone. It's such amazing. It's such a joy to see you on stage.
Really?
Yeah, I loved it. Even the ending, especially the ending.
Yes.
Yeah, very nice. And also one of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou.
Oh, yes, I know. Actually, that's one you all should carry in your backpack.
And I became a mom 4 months ago for the
Oh,
first time.
congratulations!
And I really feel what you're saying, and
Yes.
it really came
Yes.
close. Thank you so much.
Not at all.
We do have time for one question, and I see some hands in the front. Yes. And Christine will also be here in the break, I think, right?
Yes, yes.
For extra questions.
Hi, Christine, and my name is Pooja. I didn't feel I was watching I feel I was watching a movie. Like it was so engaging from the starting, and especially the end. How she said, it feels like I'm also going through those transitions of journey where you started with the high school, with the joint family culture or big family, and also relating because being an expat, understanding how it is adjusting to a new country, culture. My question is, how can a woman help other women in the tech world to have opportunities, which we are deprived of? Sometimes I think what even the first speaker said, believe in you, you have to believe in yourself. Even if we believe in ourselves, how do others believe in you to give that
Yes.
opportunity?
Yes. What I've learned, of course, is we are in the end in the world with people, and so a lot is about perception of others of us. The first thing I would tell you is that just be sure to be authentically you, right? And believe in yourself, right? Because it is from there that you will find, and you won't find them all over the place. They're not everyone else, but you will always find someone who will be able to support you, because you do bring your own talents and you're uniquely you, right? So yeah, I would just be you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Give her a very warm applause, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Before we go to the break, let's go to our final keynote speaker talking about leading in change.